I'm here in South Florida with Michael Torterillo, defender of Bataan and Corregidor, survivor of the Battle of Bataan, the Bataan Death March, and survivor of the prisoner of war Japanese prison camps. Also, my uncle. How you doing, Uncle Mike?
Great.
Good to
See you.
Very good to see you. Uncle Mike, we'd like to hear your story and how you started out in the military and where you were stationed, and if you could tell us, we'd like to know.
Well, I joined the service in 1939, and I decided I wanted to travel, and I picked the Philippines. I decided if I'm going to get out of the country, I may as well travel as far as I can. And I joined the Air Force, Army Air Force. In those days, it wasn't a separate Air Force; it was Army Air Force. And I went to sailed from Brooklyn, went through the canal, to California, to Hawaii, to Guam, and then the Philippines.
What is the landscape of the Philippines like?
Philippines is very similar to Florida. Exactly what we have down here. We have the palm trees and the yucca plants and oleanders and the hibiscus. Only in the Philippines you don't get hurricanes, you get typhoons. Terrific winds and rain. Very hot, very humid, similar to Florida.
Did you expect the Japanese attack?
Oh no, no. When I was in the Philippines, as I said, I was in the 27th Torterillo Squadron. I was in charge of the crash crew, which handled all airplane crashing down on what we call the line. And everything was fine for a couple of years. And I liked it so much out there, especially Manila, which was called the Pearl of the Orient, that I had decided I was going to muster out in the Philippines when my time was up and become a civilian and stay out there. But evidently, I guess the government in some way got wind of an imminent Japanese attack or a war or something. So we were held back by the convenience of the government, and I wasn't allowed to be mustered out. And of course, the attack did come.
What was your first sighting of the attack? How did you know the attack came?
Well, see now, we woke up Sunday morning, December 8th. We were a day ahead of the Hawaiian time. And picked up the newspaper, Philippine Herald, and there was a headline: Pearl Harbor attack. What's this? You know, couldn't believe it. So anyway, then word got out to all of us that get the planes out of the hangar, anchor them down on the field, and start digging foxholes and trenches and stuff like that, because we knew we were going to get hit. And that night, on December 8th, we were hit. Came over and bombed that night. They went down and bombed the airfield, all the hangars, officers' quarters, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, they would come every afternoon at 12 o'clock. We knew exactly when they were coming because they didn't have the northern bomb sight. The Japanese had what is known as a sundial bomb sight. It would only work effectively at noon when the sun was at high noon. So in the morning we would, take it easy and prepare ourselves. When we approached 12 noon, we were getting our foxhole. Sure enough, here they came. Every day they were predicted. They bombed, they strafed.
Where were you at this time?
I was at Nichols Field, which was south of Manila, railroad station, Nichols Field. And Clark Field was north of Manila. That's where they had all the B-17 and all the heavy planes.
How did you see? Did the ground forces come soon after the Japanese ground forces?
The ground forces. We were in Nichols Field, and we evacuated Nichols Field to the south end. We bivouacked. That's when we had orders to We had orders to go to Bataan. And we didn't see any ground forces coming in our area. Because at that time, I think General MacArthur declared Manila an open city, so it wouldn't be bombed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got into Bataan, and that's when we started defending the peninsula.
Were you eating at this time? Did you have
Well, at
food?
at this particular time, we had our rations, because, you know, it was just the beginning, and we had plenty of food and everything. But once we got on Bataan, that's when the rations started to dwindle. And I mean, practically down to nothing. We were all underfed, undernourished, scrounging around for whatever we could eat. Sneak out, you know, these sugarcane fields between the Americans and the Filipinos who were combined, and the Japanese, and we'd sneak out in the middle of the night and get some sugarcane, chew on it, you know. And also, I've eaten monkey, dogs, horses, anything was edible, because we weren't getting any rations.
There was no reinforcements or
no
food being brought in?
We couldn't get any food. We didn't have any. At that time, the Japanese controlled the main island of Luzon. That's where all the warehouses were, all the food and everything else. They couldn't get anything to us. Very, very little.
How long a period of time did you hold on for?
We held on from December until April. And the Japanese were completely puzzled as why they didn't take over Bataan yet. As a matter of fact, General Homa, I think he was the Japanese general. He was getting all kinds of help from Imperial Japanese Corps in Japan. What's holding you up? Why can't you get in there? And we were just holding, you know, they weren't quite sure what we had as far as equipment was concerned. What kind of artillery. Planes we didn't have any. No planes at all. We had a couple of P-40s at Cap Cabin, that's where I was at, that would fly out at night down to Mindanao, one of the southern islands, pick up supplies and bring them back. But they were never used for combat. That's all they were used for. And I know that you're in the construction business with bulldozers and equipment like that. And it was interesting because at Cap Cabin, the dive bombers would come over, dive bomb Cap Cabin, that's where the airfield was. These big, tremendous craters, and as fast as they bombed us, as fast the bulldozers would come over and they would level it off. And as they were working, some of the guys that run the bulldozers, when the planes came up, they just jump off the bulldozer and go underneath, which was pretty good protection because you couldn't get shrapnel. The shrapnel goes this way, it doesn't go this way. And there has to be a direct hit on the bulldozer for you to be, you know.
At this point, did you realize surrender was imminent?
No. We didn't know it until, let's see, we surrendered on the 9th, and it was a few days before we got orders to grab all our equipment. We'll go down to Marvelis, to form the last line of defense. And I had my old 30-30 rifle, you know, the bolt action. We didn't have automatic weapons. And this is funny. Grabbed my automatic and my rifle. I had a bandolier this way and a bandolier this way with ammunition and an ammunition belt. I could hardly move. I looked like Pancho Villa, one of the Mexican bandits. I figured, well, you know, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to take as many as I can. So as this was in the middle of the night, we were going south in the trucks, and we had to stop. We hear all this bombing and ammunition and debris flying around. The ammunition dumps were being blown up, so we could continue any further. And while the ammunition dumps were being blown up, earthquake. The trucks started to rock back. We couldn't figure out what's going on here. Heard tremors. Lasted maybe about 10 minutes.
When did the surrender come?
Well, we finally got down to Marvelis, and we were in a ravine with mountains circling around us. King, I think, was the one that surrendered us. And the Japanese officer, I don't know what rank he was, but he was up there with the big speaker saying, throw your arms down, throw your arms down, don't try to fight back because you will be annihilated. And they had planes circling overhead. So we had no choice. So what we did, took the bolts out of the rifles so they couldn't use them, and hit the rifles against the trees to break the barrel. And that was the surrender.
Did the Japanese have searched the American prisoners at this time?
Well then, from Marvelis, which was, we were backed up to the South China Sea. That's where the Death March started from. See, I was on the east coast of Bataan, the Bataan Peninsula, and the other factors and army were on the west coast, South China Sea. So there were two marches, one on the west coast and one on the east coast, and then we merged. And that's when they ordered the march. Now, the reason why the march was ordered, General Homo underestimated. He expected 25,000 combination of Americans and Filipino army to be captured. And he was making provisions to put us in trucks. But it wasn't 25,000, it was 76,000. So they had no alternative. Ordered the march.
How did you feel at this point? Were you afraid?
No, it's a funny thing. No, I was never scared. I was never afraid. I was just rolling with it, you know, like a fighter. You roll with the punches. So I was accepting. What happened, happened. Because you're in a position where you can't do anything about it. So you just accept. And we all accept. And no one was scared. No one.
When you started on the march, did you know where you were marching to?
Absolutely no idea. Just march. We're marching in columns, 5 abreast. And we had no idea. We had the guards on both sides of us. Couldn't stop, couldn't do anything. But I had enough sense to realize the situation. And I made sure that I marched on the inside, not on the outside. Inside the column. Because I wasn't vulnerable to the inside. The boys on the outside were vulnerable. Whenever the Japanese guard decided to give you a rifle butt or a bayonet, you were there. You were available. So I stayed on the inside, had my baseball hat on, with a wet rag around my neck here. I kept one of these little pebbles, sort of like a lucky stone in my mouth. So it kept the saliva going, so you wouldn't crave liquids.
What was the weather like?
Hot. We're talking April. Fortunately, it wasn't the rainy season. If it was the rainy season, we'd have been, dire shape.
Was there any rest stops along the route?
We'd march maybe a full day. And then they pull us off the side of a road and make you rest. No food. Nothing. And the Filipino that lived in Bataan, they really loyal and really, I'd call them heroes. They tried their best to try to give us something, risking their own lives. Because if the Japanese caught them, they would have killed them. When we went by, tried to get some little food, a little something.
How did you feel at this time physically?
Well, I was weak.
Did you ever think of giving up?
No, my attitude was, and my father always believed, he knew me. I said, if I'm going to die, they're going to have to kill me. That's all. I'm not going to just drop, quit. I've seen too many guys do it. It's easy. People don't realize how easy it is to die. All you have to do is give up, and you're dead. And I've seen a lot of the boys do it. They just, they didn't grit their teeth, they didn't hang in there. Tough. And they just died. I said, they're going to have to kill me. It's the you know where I'm gonna go?
Was there any water on the march?
No. There was just one stop we made. I don't recall exactly what little town, Lamai, Orion, one of those little towns, that they pulled us to the side of the road. It was sort of like a stream. And we were able to fill our canteens and wash ourselves. No food yet, mind you. Of course, there in the stream, dead Filipino bodies floating. Didn't bother me. Water is water. So, this one friend of mine, Frankie Arquillo, he's from California. He was a pretty sharp operator. He had a watch and some fountain pens, which the Japanese would do anything for. And he managed to get hold of one of the Japanese guards in Gokan. Gokan means trade. And he gave me this for some rice. The Japanese gave him rice. And we found an old pot. Got the water, cooked up all the rice, whatever guys were around ate. That's how we managed.
Where was your destination on the march? Where did you finally?
We finally arrived at Camp O'Donnell. And we were at Camp O'Donnell perhaps maybe about a week. And that's where the boys were really dying. There were more, this is interesting, there were more Americans died on the Death March than in the Battle of Bataan. Something like 2,500 died on the Death March.
Were you burying these?
No. He dropped to the side. So, couldn't stop to pick him up. You get a bayonet. Couldn't stop to carry him. A lot of the, if you carried him, you had to be one arm around one shoulder, one arm around another shoulder. When you drag them along, they allow you to do that. But a lot of them, just in the Japanese say, in their broken English or Japanese, make sign like leave him lay here against a tree. The truck is going to come pick him up and they're going to take him to the hospital. Never happened. It was finished.
After you were at Camp O'Donnell for 1 week?
About a week, yeah.
Then from there?
When we arrived at Camp O'Donnell, there were thousands of us. The first thing they did was just got us in this big open area. A Japanese officer got up on a box, I didn't know his rank. And he says, "You are my prisoners. I have no food for you. I have no water. And if you die, I have no time to bury you." Exact words, I'll never forget it, one of them. So we stayed there about a week. And during that week, what they were doing, they were taking details. What I mean by details, they were getting maybe 25, 50 of the soldiers, American soldiers. The Japanese would get them, and they'd ship them off maybe down to Mindanao, maybe up in northern Luzon, any place where battles took place, to work and dismantle artillery pieces, tanks, stuff like that. And once you went out on one of those details, that was the end. You'd never see you again. A very good friend of mine, Lenny Okanzak from Buffalo, went on one of these details. Never saw him anymore.
How did you avoid the detail?
Very interesting. I was young, but I was mature. So I came down to where we were staying, one of the what's called kutai, and bamboo huts. I said, "All right, all you guys, got to go up to the hill up there where the Japanese are, and they're going to pick out details. They go out on detail. They could ship you anywhere." Oh, I said to myself, yeah. So I got to do some fast thinking here to get out of this. So they marched us up to the Japanese had a big table, had a Japanese there, then they pick it up, you go to so many, you go here, so many, you go there. So we got up there, stepped down, I went up to Japanese and one of our lieutenants. He was like sort of interpreter. I said, Lieutenant, I'm Sergeant Torterillo. I said, I just brought up these guys to go out on detail. I said, I have to go back and pick up some more for detail. So, okay, all right, Sergeant, go do that. All right? I got back down. I went into one of these kutai, one of these bamboo huts, up in the top of the raft and hid until it was all over with. I hid. Then when it was all, they got all the details all over with. Then they come down with trucks. They put us all on trucks and we went to Cabana Line.
Just American soldiers at this time?
All Americans. All Americans. We went to Cabana Line. No Filipino. There were different contingent entirely. Philippine soldiers.
What was a regular day in Cabanatuan like?
Well, the regular day, how could I explain it? You get up, you wait for the rice. In the morning it was called lugao. They cook the rice to like sort of a mush. And that's what we have, a little bowl of that. And at night we'd have another bowl of rice. That was it for the day. And then we go out on farm detail. Outside the camp they had, the Japanese had a farm. They were growing string beans, radishes, what else? Squash. And we'd have to go out every day and work the farm. We had one guard, which we called air raid. Here comes air raid. He was mean. And we would pick weeds in between the plants. Pick weeds. And he would say, many, many, many head down, many, many, many ass up. In other words, you couldn't kneel, you had to bend down all day. That's why what he meant. Like many, many head down, many, many ass up. That's what he wanted to see. You couldn't squat, no way. You just pick the weeds, weed the beds.
Was there any type of the escapes tried?
No. No. The reason why, where we were located, there was a little town maybe about 3 or 4 miles down the road. And if you were to try to escape and get down to that town to seek sanctuary from the Filipinos, or if they got word that something was going on, you come to dive bombers. That's the end of the town. And you couldn't go west, because west was the Sierra Madre Mountains, and they were maybe 20, 30 miles away. And beyond the Sierra Madre Mountain, there was nothing but the ocean. So what they do to just encourage trying to escape, they put us in what they called 10-man shooting squads. There were 100 in each shack. So they broke up 10 groups. Anyone in that group escaped, the other 9 get shot. So we all thought about that. See, you could have escaped, you could have made contact with the guerrillas. You could have got down to the village, the Filipinos would tell you how to make contact with the guerrillas. But then you risk the lives of 9 other prisoners. They would have shot them. Interesting. Now, when we first arrived, Cabana Line, nothing was so. We were dying something like 80 a day. So we were trying to figure out on pencil and paper when our time would be up. There was no food. They were dying from dysentery. Dysentery was a big killer. Beriberi, pellagra. The dysentery just eat you out. You've probably seen pictures of the people starving in Somalia. The boy that were dying, we'll put those pictures to shame. We just said, just a skeleton, perhaps maybe just skin tied around. 80 a day. And they would carry them up the road on makeshift stretches, whatever, just piled high, arms hanging, legs up the road, and dig mass graves, maybe about a couple of feet deep, not too deep. And at night you could hear the wild dogs howl, digging into the grave lawn and stuff like that. But anyway, when we first arrived, there were two brothers. One brother tried to escape. They got him. I saw eyewitnesses, all the others. Made him dig his grave, his own grave. Stood behind the grave, and his brother watched. Fire right in the grave. Made his brother fill the grave.
Did you witness any other type of tortures?
Oh yes. One of the famous tortures was the water hose. They take it like a garden hose, lay on your back, stick the garden hose in your mouth, turn the water on, blow you all up with water, then jump on you. All kinds of torture. Any of these little, more or less oriental things they could think of. Because they're known for their little ways of torture.
Did you receive any torture?
Oh yeah. Talk about beatings. The worst I received was when I was in Japan. I was in Command Rwanda until 1944. August 1944, they decided to take whoever they could, put them on what's known as prison hell ships, ship them off to Japan to work in the steel mines, steel mills in Japan. And we were put in these prison hell ships. In the hole, with just a wooden bucket. And you talk about gruesome and macabre and ghoulish. Guys drinking their own urine. Sucking their own blood. So, after we were at sea about maybe 2 or 3 days, they finally decided, they put wooden steps in. They finally decided that they allowed us to go up on deck, and they had sort of an outhouse on deck. And they had salt water hose wash us down. So here we go again with Mike Torton's thinking, I gotta get up there and get some fresh air. So I managed to talk to the guard. It was only the guard that managed to talk to him of me being on the other side of him, because he didn't understand I would be able to tell one at a time to stop. And he fell for it. I was up on the deck, sea air and all that stuff, not realizing the danger, because the U.S. subs were after us.
Did you ever feel like you were insane, temporarily insane at all? Did you always have your wits about you? And
you keep your wits, you will survive some way. Got to have your wits at all times. Cool, you know what I mean? You got to think. I always have my wits. And that, there's an expression a lot of people say, well, you were lucky. You make a lot of your own luck. I'm a firm believer in that. You make your luck. And as I was going along, I was making my own luck. Always thinking, always thinking. And this one night we're down in the hole, and we could hear the screws, slapping like, you could hear them going. Couldn't figure out what was happening. The next day we found out that our subs were after us, and they got 2 or 3 of the ships. Fortunately, ours wasn't hit.
what were the sanitary conditions on the ship?
Just a wooden bucket. And then they decided that they allowed us to go topside one at a time. They had sort of an outhouse on deck. And then one day, down in the hole, and word comes, guy comes down, he's calling. Hey Mike Torterillo. What is this? Paging me out of here in a prison ship? What's going on here? Yes, he said, hey, Japanese guards with him. I had to go topside. What's going on now? Here I go, this is all, they throw me overboard. He says, come on, we're gonna go forward. See, I was in aft, the rear of the ship. We had another batch of prisoners forward in the hold. He said, Eddie McIntyre's up there. Eddie McIntyre's my buddy. Before the war, all through the war, through the prison camp. He's from Lake Isabella, California. Little short guy. And he's up there. We used to put on, when we were Commander 1, we used to put on shows, you know. And we used to do sort of like adagio dance. He played the part of the girl and I was the man and so forth and so on. Anyway, we used to entertain. So they found out I was in the rear, so they brought me up to the front of the ship where Eddie was. You know, talk to the guys, maybe do a little skit or something, try to build up the morale or something like that. Which I thought was, I couldn't get over that at all.
What were you wearing at this time? What did the prisoners have?
We had the clothes that we had in prison camp. Same clothes. Nothing else.
Pants, shirt?
Not a shirt, pants, or maybe some sort of a top. Very ragged. And when we arrived in Fukuoka, and it's in the island of Kyushu, the southern island, we arrived in Moji, I think was the port. Japanese gave us pants, jackets like they wear, shoes, propaganda. We couldn't see what's going on here. Marched us after we got off the ships, marched us through the streets of Moji. So all of the people was ready to see us. And also, if there was any Red Cross, how well we were taken care of. Then we were put on trucks and taken to Camp Fukuoka. And I was in Camp Fukuoka for a year.
What was the length of your imprisonment?
3.5 years. Total.
What kept you going? Was there a single thing that you would say kept you going throughout this imprisonment?
I lived like I would live here in a situation, you know, in this country. As I say, you accept the inevitable. It's there. You figure someday, some way, you know, we're going to get out of this. And I didn't brood, you know. I didn't brood. I was always high in morale, you know, with the fellas. And a lot of them, of course, as I say, they gave up. Just gave up. You know, you see one of them sitting down or leaning against a tree or something, you go, he's dead. Just gave up. I was about to do that. They had to kill him. I always said that. The only way.
Did you have names for the Japanese guards?
Yeah. One we called Fly Swatter. He was, I think he was a sergeant. He would come in the the barracks where we were staying with a fly swatter. He'd hit the table. Hurrah! The Japanese, come to attention, all that sort of stuff. And we worked at the Yawata steel mill. 8 hours a day, every day. We had off one day a month. They would put us on flatbed freight trains. No top, flatbed. Any kind of a snow, rain, regardless, morning. Down to the steel mill. And I was working with what they call the jackhammers. Air guns. They were manufacturing, manufacturing cannons, all sorts of armed pieces. And we'd have to take the crust off from the mold of the jackhammer. That's what we do all day.
How did you feel? Did you hate the Japanese guards?
When we were in Japan, they didn't have guards. The guards were in the camp, but they had civilians with armbands. They were our guards, marching us to the flatbeds down to the steel mill and back. All our guards were in the camp. One of the civilians, his name was Sato. He was very nice. Felt sorry for us, you know. And he tried to sneak me in what we call mongo beans. Little beans. They looked like lentils. You could eat them, you know. But if you ever got caught with it, going to the camp, they'd strip us down every now and then and have a fast trip as we marched in. And here we go again, what you were thinking. He'd bring them a little bags. I said, how am I going to get them to shake us down? That's it. We're finished. So I managed to get a pair of GI size 12 shoes. I wore 10, 12, like that. I stuck them up the tip of the shoe. Because they, you take your shoes off, you know, and they look in. That was these were jammed up in the tip. That's how I got away with it.
When did you know that you were being liberated?
Well, let's see. They dropped the bomb on Hiroshima on the 6th. We didn't know anything about that. They dropped the bomb on Nagasaki on the 9th. Suddenly, in the middle of the day, kuda, kuda, kuda. Well, you know, drop your air hammers, get back on a freight train, we'll take you back to camp. We figure something's up. Everybody had come to the one conclusion: there's going to be an invasion. And we said, if there's an invasion by the American troops, we're finished. Oh yeah, we're finished. So we got back to the barracks. They told us, although they pushed us to one corner, stay there. Got all kinds of blankets and whatever, mattresses, whatever they can get, put it around us. I couldn't back out. We're invading. I said, we're invading. It's about time. The next morning, get up, there isn't a guard in camp. Not a guard. All took off. Finally, the word filtered in that they had dropped the A-bomb on Nagasaki and their surrender. Guard got out fast. Now the camp was ours. So the first thing we did, we went out to sort of the bay. I don't remember the name of it, which was maybe about 300 or 400 yards from our camp. We got a hold of some line. Big circle line with SOS in the middle of it. Because the P-38s were flying over. They spotted it, the P-38s. Sent word down to, where was the big air base? Tinian? I don't recall exactly where. Word down. The next day, sure enough, here come the B-29. Body circuit, come low. Bomb bays open. Here comes the food. There were 55-gallon steel drums welded to one another with food stacked in. You know, here they said, well, we got off, of course. We got off to the woods. Find time to get in with American food and you're out. But that's where I got a hold of a piece of parachute. And got the food, very orderly. Nobody went crazy. Because we were a mixture of Americans, Australians, Indians, that's from India, Canadians, and some British. We all got food, we all brought it back to camp, so all divided equally. Everybody and his brother had what is known as a Quonset fire, little Quonset fire. Everybody. You know, dried eggs, bacon in a can. Ate till I got sick. Yeah.
Did you see American soldiers finally come to
2 weeks
recovery?
later, yeah. 2 weeks later, here they come. Name was red-headed captain, I'll never forget his name. Captain O'Connor from Boston. Comes in with the boys. We look at these guys, you know, they're emaciated. Size of you, all the modern equipment, you know, M15, M16, all this stuff. The helmets, we had the old flat British type helmets. And I'm touching them. You're real? He came in, he says, we're gonna get you out of here. Just outside of our camp, there was a railroad. Went up there, stopped the train, commandeered the whole train. You know, everybody gonna grab whatever we can grab. Here we go. We're going along, I don't know how many hours. Finally the train comes almost a complete stop. In the meantime, here's the typical GI for you. All these who go to the farmland, and they're all lined on both sides of the road, you know, the Japanese civilian farmers. You know, I have nothing against them. You know, they were a victim of the imperialists. And here we are, we're throwing cigarettes and we're throwing candy bars. Really? You know, that's the way we are. Train came back to a halt, and we couldn't figure out why. And word comes by that we're going through Nagasaki where they dropped the A-bomb. And the tracks were being replaced gradually so we could go ahead. Carly, we went through that like you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe the devastation. Not flat. Oh, for miles and miles and miles, just flat. Nothing. Unbelievable.
After all these years, you've kept more or less your silence.
Yeah, you know, I mean, what is there to talk about? You know how many million soldiers we had? You know how many went through practically the same situation? Everybody had their own little problems through the war, their own little catastrophes or whatever you want to call them. We had the fellow there, a cousin of mine, Louis Messina, my father's sister's son. He was a tail gunner in B-17 over Germany. Got shot up. He was in a German camp. He survived. Come back. See, but I mean, everybody had their stories. Everybody was, so, you know.
Have you had any trauma, nightmares afterwards? Any recurrences?
Well, you know, maybe sometimes you think about it, but not to the point where you wake up in the middle of the night and, you know, I think a lot of this dramatizing. I hate to say it, but a lot of theatrics are involved, a lot of dramatization. I read about it. You know, you did your thing, you went through it, it's over. You know, it's a bad dream, like everything else. I think a lot of it's overdone. That's my own personal opinion.
Anything in particular that sticks in your mind?
Well, you know, through life, some of the situations that you've been through, like I've been through and other people have been through different things, domestically or whatever you want to call it, there's always a touch of comedy. See, what is known as comedic relief. And a lot of these stick out of my mind. When we first arrived in Cabana 1, you know, we were unkempt, unshaven, dirty. Placed in these little kutai, these little barracks, which were originally put up for the Philippine Army to train in, made out of bamboo slats. And one day there was some magazine and stuff laying around, I guess, from when the Filipinos were there, you know, training. One day this guy walks out, big, 6 feet, big black beard, you know. He comes out funny. He says, hey, he says, anybody see my lady's home journal? You know, funny.
After all this, how do you feel towards the Japanese?
Well, I never felt any malice against the Japanese civilians because they were victims. It was the Tojo, Admiral Yamashita. He's the one that directed the attack on Pearl Harbor. The imperialists, they themselves, and of course a lot of these soldiers. It's a funny thing though. The veteran soldiers, the one that were in the Chinese campaign, Borneo, Burma, Singapore, they were soldiers. they realized and recognized us as, hey, these guys are soldiers like us. We captured him, you know, end of the story. It was the young eager beavers that never saw action, put in charge to guard us. These were the guys you're going to watch out for. Eager beavers, you know, how to show their officers, you know, kuda with the bayonet, stuff like that. Not the old timers. Old timers couldn't be bothered. You know, they were still busy with mopping up operations.
Is there anything that you could leave us with now to relate your experiences through the Battle of Bataan and the Death March and the prison camps to relate to life that
Well, I like to quote one thing, and this was written by Frank Hewlett, who was a correspondent, and he would make periodical trips back and forth to Bataan on the front line. And he wrote, we're the battling bastards of Bataan. No mama, no papa, no Uncle Sam, no uncles, no nieces, no aunts, no cousins, no pills, no medicine, no food, no artillery pieces, and nobody gives a damn. And also, Eddie McIntyre and I know he's still living, Lake Isabella, I corresponded with him. As I say, we would put on little skits. He and I and Johnny Kratz, Lyle Booth, Pappy Harris, Marshall, he was the Marine, he played the clarinet. A little band they formed. And this whole band went to Japan on a prison ship, and the whole band was wiped out by one of our sub torpedoes. Of course, they didn't know they were prison ship. But we wrote a little song, Eddie and I, to the tune of "The Lady of the Tramp." And I don't know if I'm a good voice, but I'm going to try to make it. So if you know the song "The Lady of the Tramp," it goes something like, in 1940 they drafted me, and Uncle Sam said the Air Corps would be. We thought we had a hell of a deal until I got to Nichols Field. Most of our pilots were on the golf course and drawing flying pay from the Air Force. We had P-40s. Our claim to fame, the way they flew them was a shame. And then the war came. Where were the planes to be found? On the ground, on the ground. Then came Bataan and Corregidor too. We held the Japs till April 1942. The rest is history, so why continue? And that's why the lady is a tramp.
Fantastic. Thank you for this time, Uncle Mike.
Thank you for interviewing me. It was a pleasure, and I'll do it anytime for you.
Thank you.
What do you need? Take it one? Put it someplace else.
That's it.